I guess you can say his influence sort of rubbed off on me. Almost like a virus. I don't get scared of video games anymore. I'm more afraid that I won't have time to enjoy them. I'm writing this a mere few weeks before Capcom releases the reimagined adventure of Resident Evil 2 for a new generation of gamers. Once you get past the loading scenes that is the door in the darkness, you'll see that the doors lead to infinite opportunities and possibilities for the future. Long live Resident Evil. Mark Julio, January 2019. Introduction. I can still remember the excitement I felt one late winter afternoon in 2015. I was visiting the San Francisco Bay Area for the annual Game Developers Conference, GDC, where members of the game industry gather in one place in their pursuit of newfound knowledge, ranging from insider information on new technologies and products to potential new business partnerships. I work in the video game industry, and 2015 was my 5th year of making the pilgrimage. Though I now live in Tokyo, the Bay Area is where I was born and raised, and where my family lives. GDC is something I've always viewed as a homecoming, paired with the joys and stresses of networking. On this particular day in early March, before heading over to GDC in downtown San Francisco, I had a special assignment: to visit the U.S. office of Capcom, the Osaka-based developer and publisher of video games and other amusement products, including Resident Evil, known in Japan as Biohazard. Technically, most of the magic happened over in Osaka, not at the U.S. branch, but still, it was a moment of personal excitement to finally visit the company that made this iconic series. Like many of my contemporaries, I was born in 1987. I have loved video games for as long as I can remember. As a teenager, I discovered that many of my favorite games were made in Japan, which eventually led to my decision to study Japanese upon entering university in the U.S. in 2005 and moved to Tokyo 2 years later. Even earlier in the 2000s, I wrote free online walkthroughs for various Resident Evil games, which represented my first work in the industry. Then, in late 2010, right before graduating from my master's program in Tokyo, I interned at a localization company, 84, where I observed how various companies in the industry collaborate to bring games to audiences globally. The following April, I joined a game developer, where I worked on localization and production for 2 years. In January 2014, I went on to establish Brainwave Productions with my best friend, Mohammed Tayer, to help him achieve his goal of connecting Japanese retro game music composers with fans all around the world. The whole time, I remained a Resident Evil fan. Over those years, I played all the versions and frequently engaged with the game's large community through social media. So, perhaps the listener can imagine just how utterly thrilled I was when I stepped through the entrance of the offices of Capcom USA in San Mateo. This was the home of Resident Evil, and for the first time ever, I was welcomed inside. If I could have told my 13-year-old self that this day would eventually come, I'm sure he would have completely lost it. 2 years on from that momentous day in 2015, I was once again in San Francisco for GDC. It was barely a month since the release of Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, a game I consider as one of my favorites, and one that was a critical success for Capcom. And Capcom Japan had sent several members of the Resident Evil 7 team to deliver talks on the game's development history. Director Koshi Nakanishi discussed the difficulties in deciding on a new direction for Resident Evil, following the critical struggle of its predecessor, Resident Evil 6. And I wondered, did every Resident Evil game have such a fascinating story behind its development? After the talks, I conversed in Japanese with Nakanishi and the rest of the team, complimenting them on their success.